Hello, and welcome to this news event held by the law firm Peiffer, Wolf, Carr, Kane, Conway, and Wise, or Peiffer Wolf for short. You'll be hearing from 5 speakers today, and then we'll open the floor for questions during the Q&A period. The Q&A period will be for reporters only. And if you wish to ask a question, you can use the raise your hand function, and your line will be unmuted when it's your turn to ask a question. For more info, go to lostembryoes.com, where you can find the news release, a link to the lawsuit filing, and more. And we'll also drop a direct link to the landing page in the chat here, so you can look in your Zoom chat for that. Okay. As I mentioned, you'll be hearing from 5 speakers today. First, Adam Wolf, partner, Peiffer Wolf, Carr, Kane, Conway, and Wise. Second, Ashley K. Sletbold, partner, Peiffer Wolf, Carr, Kane, Conway, and Wise. Third, Janine Harvey. Fourth, Mike Harvey. And please note, Mike's legal name is John, for those of you who are reading the lawsuit, but he goes by Mike. And fifth, Jessica Harvey Galloway. So let's begin with our first speaker, attorney Adam Wolf, partner at Peiffer Wolf.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining this news conference. My name is Adam Wolf, and I am a partner at Peiffer Wolf, Carr, Kane, Conway, and Wise. Before you hear from my partner Ashley and the Harveys, I want to go through some of the background. As you will hear in more detail, this case involves an unsuspecting couple who sought the help of a trusted doctor at a trusted health system on their journey to parenthood. The Harveys' objective was very straightforward. They needed help facilitating a pregnancy through an insemination procedure that would use Mr. Harvey's sperm to fertilize Mrs. Harvey's egg. They did everything they were supposed to do. They followed their doctor's instructions, but what they got was a devastating betrayal with life-altering consequences. Today, the Harveys filed a lawsuit against Summa Health System and Dr. Nicholas Spirtos. This case involves serious allegations: medical malpractice, battery, lack of informed consent, multiple instances of negligence, the failed safeguarding of genetic material, and the list goes on. And to frame this up accurately, you'll need to keep in mind the baffling lack of regulation that still persists today, even as we discuss this shocking conduct. As consumers, we think of fertility clinics as highly professional organizations governed by strict rules. But the truth is, nail salons are subject to far tighter controls than the labs in fertility clinics. Unlike virtually every other developed country, there is no comprehensive, meaningful federal oversight over this multi-billion-dollar industry, big fertility. That is why we often characterize the current state of regulation over the assisted reproductive technology industry as the Wild West. Meaningful oversight is absent. Error reporting is essentially non-existent, and tragic cases of lost, destroyed, or otherwise improperly handled embryos are on the rise. After several decades and thousands of fertility misconduct cases, we are still in the middle of the Wild West era. How many more Janine Harveys and Mike Harveys and Jessica Harvey Galloways will have to share their heartbreaking stories before our legislators take this problem seriously? Rather than list countless examples of this type of misconduct, you'll get to hear it directly from the Harveys today. Thank you. That concludes my statement. I look forward to your questions during the Q&A session.
Thank you. Again, that was Adam Wolf, partner at Peiffer Wolf. Let's proceed to our second speaker, attorney Ashley K. Sletbold, partner at Peiffer Wolf.
Good afternoon. My name is Ashley K. Sletbold, and I'm a partner at Peiffer Wolf. Before I turn it over to the Harveys, I'm going to dive into some of the details of their case. Back in 1991, Janine and Mike Harvey were patients of Dr. Nicholas Spirtos at the fertility clinic at Summa Akron City Hospital, now called Summa Health System. On August 12, 1991, Mrs. Harvey became pregnant via intrauterine insemination, or IUI. This is a procedure in which a physician inserts sperm into a patient's uterus to facilitate fertilization. Mr. Harvey provided a semen sample the morning of August 12th for use in his wife's procedure. The Harveys consented to the IUI using only Mr. Harvey's genetic material, but that is not what happened. Fast forward 30 years. to Christmas 2020. The Harvey's daughter Jessica and her husband were planning a trip to Europe. They hoped to find distant relatives in their ancestral homelands and maybe connect with them on their journey. Jessica identified closely with her Italian heritage on her dad's side and was thus very interested in finding her relatives in Italy. She and her husband asked her parents for Ancestry.com DNA tests as Christmas gifts. Now, until the results arrived, Mr. and Mrs. Harvey believed that Jessica was genetically related to both of them. They trusted Dr. Spirtos and Summa Health System. At no point did they suspect that Jessica's biological father was anyone other than Mr. Harvey. But when the DNA test results came back weeks later, they were not what the family expected. Jessica's ethnicity did not include any of the Italian heritage from Mr. Harvey's side. Now, after receiving these shocking results, the family took another home DNA test with a different company, and Mr. Harvey and Jessica underwent separate paternity testing at an independent lab. The results of these tests confirmed that Mr. Harvey is not Jessica's biological father. Through extensive research of genealogy records, we identified Jessica's biological father. We refer to him throughout the complaint as Mr. Barrett to protect his privacy at his request. Now, we contacted Mr. Barrett, who confirmed that he and his wife were patients of Dr. Spirtos at Summa Akron City Hospital at the same time as the Harveys. Mr. Barrett agreed to submit to a paternity test, which confirmed that he is Jessica's biological father. He was just as shocked as the Harveys to learn this fact. Now, he believed his sperm had been used in his wife's procedure. The Harveys placed their trust in Dr. Spirtos, and they want the truth about how this tragedy happened. Did Summa fail to properly clean its lab equipment? Was this the result of Summa's mixing up patients' sperm samples? The Harveys and the public deserve to know. We first reached out to Summa Health System and Dr. Spirtos in July of last year regarding our clients' claims. We sent a draft complaint. We shared the medical records our clients had retained from their fertility treatment. We provided paternity test results from LabCorp demonstrating that Mr. Barrett and not Mr. Harvey is Jessica's biological father. And we also provided Summa and Dr. Spirtos with sworn testimony from the Barretts. Those affidavits disclosed the Barretts' real names and confirmed that they were patients at the same time as the Harveys. It has been almost 7 months since we first advised defendants of our clients' claims. Summa Health System and Dr. Spirtos have offered no explanation for how Jessica was conceived using a stranger's DNA. Now, during the 7 months since we first advised them of this situation, Summa Health System or Dr. Spirtos never asked to either meet with our clients or conduct any testing of their own to confirm the results. Our clients had no choice but to take their dispute to court. And we will do everything in our power to ensure that this kind of misconduct never harms another family. Fertility doctors undertake a Promethean responsibility in creating human life, and they must proceed with the requisite care. That is the end of my statement. I'll look forward to taking your questions once you've heard from the Harveys.
Thank you. Again, that was Ashley K. Sletbold, partner, Peiffer Wolf. Let's proceed to our third speaker, Janine Harvey.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Janine Harvey. About 30 years ago, my husband and I went to see a fertility doctor for help in conceiving a baby. We had no idea at that time that those events would ultimately turn our world upside down and lead us to where we are today, speaking to you. A woman often chooses her husband with the thought of someday bearing his child. In 1991, my husband and I became patients of Dr. Nicholas Spirtos at the IVF Center at Akron City Hospital, which is now called Summa Health Systems. Our goal couldn't have been clearer. We wanted a child who was genetically related to both of us. I underwent the in vitro fertilization with the understanding that Mike's genetic materials would be used in this procedure. Without our knowledge, Dr. Spirtos used a stranger's sperm instead of my husband's. I got pregnant and our daughter Jessica was born in 1992. Harvey girls were very rare in the family, so we were so excited. I screamed and scared the doctors half to death when she was born. Years went by, we had no reason to think that Jessica was not ours. Mike's family's Italian, we raised her in an Italian home, and we were surrounded by the Italian neighborhood of family. It's difficult to describe my feelings when it comes to the truth of Jessica's DNA test. There are so many feelings: shock, disbelief, doubt, anger, uncertainty, grief. I was overwhelmed. I still struggle sleeping at night thinking about it. Then I began to think, whose sperm was forced inside of my body? What kind of health issues could that person possibly be providing to my daughter? What's happened to my husband's sperm? Did the clinic use his sperm in another patient's procedure? And who's the other patient? Don't they have a right to know the truth? Naturally, I also felt the pain for our entire family. As we were going through as a mother, I'm trying to imagine what confusion and pain my daughter must be going through. It hurts, as if it's my own pain, but I can't fix it for her. We can no longer share our little private Italian jokes, enjoy our little Italian get-togethers. It's just too painful for her. Her heritage has literally been stripped away from her. For countless unsuspecting families out there, just like us, it took just one Christmas gift, a home DNA pregnancy kit, to change our lives forever. It revealed a trauma that I never could have imagined. It's taken every ounce of my power to remain strong for my family and for myself as we try to move forward. Mike's my husband, Jessica is our daughter. There's no DNA test that will change that, but we will hold Dr. Spirtos and Summa Health accountable for this. We as a family hope that by sharing our story, putting our private lives out there in the public eye, that we might be able to help others and prevent this from happening to them. Thank you, and that is the conclusion of my statement.
Thank you. And again, that was Janine Harvey. And Janine, we were having a little trouble with the paper in the way. So Mike, if you've got, no, it's not a big deal, but just so you know.
I'm sorry.
No problem. Let's go now to our fourth speaker, Mike Harvey. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Mike Harvey, and I'm here today to express my support for the two most important women in my life, my wife Janine and our daughter Jessica. I will always be there to support and protect them. As a husband and father, it's very difficult to watch your family in pain, especially when the source of that pain is something that you know you can never correct. Learning that your entire reality isn't what you believed it to be is hard to explain. It's sort of waking up in somebody else's life. We all go through the same process that Janine mentioned. You know, it's shock, it's disbelief, it's sadness, betrayal, even anger. So what is the truth? Are we the same people we thought we were before the DNA test? I think the answer will be yes. We will be the same strong, protective, loving family that we'd always been. You know, Jessica always loved her Italian heritage. She even took Italian in high school and practiced it speaking to her grandmother and her aunts. She and her husband wanted to travel to Italy for her 30th birthday. Well, obviously, that's not going to happen. That dream's over. My mothers and sisters, they were healthy, lived to 99, 97, 95 years of age. And we have no history of cancer, heart disease, diabetes, or anything else in our family genes. And we wanted to provide that for Jessica. That was glad to be able to share that with their daughter. But now all the things are different because of this trauma. Unfortunately, as mentioned, countless of other families may have to go through this. So that is why we're speaking out in hopes that this would never happen again. Thank you. That concludes my statement.
Again, that was Mike Harvey. Thank you so much, Janine and Mike. And let's proceed to our fifth and final speaker, Jessica Harvey Galloway.
Hi, my name is Jessica Harvey Galloway. My family and I are here today to demand accountability from Summa Health and Dr. Spirtos. No one should have to experience what we've been through. Our hope is that by sharing our story and filing our lawsuit, we can help prevent this from happening to others in the future. I want to thank my mom and my dad for their courage and strength. I love you so much, and no matter what, you are my parents forever and always. The word appreciative does not even begin to describe how grateful I am for you, for everything you've done for me and everything you will continue to do for me as we try to make sense of our lives in the face of this ordeal. Leading up to Christmas in 2020, my husband and I were planning a trip to Europe. How cool we thought it would be to connect with distant relatives in the countries that we might be visiting. My parents got us ancestry DNA kits as Christmas gifts. And since then, our lives have never been the same and never will be. I know I'm here today because I'm supposed to share my thoughts and feelings, but truly there are no words to describe and express what I've been through, what my parents have been through. I am still in total disbelief and probably always will be. One of the biggest comforts for me is knowing that I'm not alone. I have my family, and that will never change. I know that we are not alone in our pain. So many other families have gone through the same kind of unimaginable circumstances and have been forced to put the pieces of their lives back together. That's not fair to them, just like it's not fair to my family and I. In addition to sharing our story, we are also here to speak for every family who has had their lives shattered by the misconduct in the fertility industry. This has to stop. That is why we are here speaking to you today. Thank you. This concludes my statement.
Thank you again. That was Jessica Harvey Galloway. And that takes us to the Q&A portion of the call. If you wish to ask a question, use the raise your hand function, and your line will be unmuted when it's your turn to ask a question. As a reminder, the Q&A period is for reporters only. If you have any issues with your own audio or the raise your hand function, you may use the text-based Q&A box, and we'll do our best to get to all the questions. And before we begin, I want to mention that a video recording of this news event will be available online later today at lostembryos.com, along with the other media materials. That's lostembryos.com, no spaces. And transcripts can be, or statements I should say, can be available upon request. Okay. Let's go ahead and take our first question. It's coming from Stephanie Warsmith at the Akron Beacon Journal. And please unmute yourself, Stephanie.
Sorry, I had to unmute. I'd like to know from the family, what would you like to see happen from this lawsuit?
Anybody?
Sure.
Well, obviously, these are professional organizations, and this is a careless error. And what I'm learning is it's from lack of regulation. Shouldn't somebody do something about this?
I would like to inflict some serious change. All change starts with someone for some reason. If this is the situation that causes that change, I'm all for it. But the regulations have to change. The chain of custody issue has to change. The training, something has to change. This can't be happening in 2022. We can't be having this issue.
Great. Let's take our next question. It's from Lisa Ryan at IdeaStream in Cleveland. Lisa, please unmute yourself. There you go.
Hi, yes, I'm Lisa Ryan from IdeaStream Public Media, and I have a few questions. The first is that I'm a little bit confused about how you found this person. What sort of genealogical research went into that? Was that also Ancestry.com that connected you? And do you think, Jessica, that you'll have any sort of relationship with this person, maybe even just conversations about medical history and things like that you might pursue in the future?
So the cool thing about the Ancestry.com app is that it'll list any relative that you're genetically related to, second cousin, third cousin, and so on. So what I did is I logged on to the relative portion of the app and would find the closest related match on there, which I think was second or third cousin. And I would take that name, search for them on Facebook, find that name in the Ohio area, message them and say, hey, I just took an ancestry DNA test. Are you the same person on here? And I did that probably hundreds or dozens of times for several months. And so I started narrowing everything down. I would research obituaries online to see children's names, grandparents' names to kind of follow up with that. And after months and months of doing this, I finally narrowed it down to 7 potential people that it could be. And then we turned it over to the genealogist that works at the law firm, and he narrowed it down to 2. And from there on, I reached out to the first one, and he admitted that he was there that day with the same doctor, the same procedure with his wife at the time. And here we are.
Thank you. Let's go to our next question. It's from Clay Lepard at WEWS News in Cleveland. Okay, Clay, you can unmute yourself.
This question is for Mrs. Harvey. When people see this story at home, what do you want them to take away from it?
Well, this is such a private issue that we've had to make public, and it's not something anyone even knew about, frankly, back when we had this procedure done. So we're hoping that this news, we're putting our lives, our souls, if you will, out there. We believe that the policies need to change. We believe that things need to change in this industry. And if we don't speak out, who's going to speak out? I don't want to say is embarrassing, but it's a little difficult to put your life out here in the public like this. But if it will help another family, that's our goal.
Let me try to answer that too. There's nothing embarrassing, Janine, nothing embarrassing to you about this. It's the fertility industry that should be embarrassed. We have represented thousands of victims of fertility center misconduct. That has to stop. So the Harveys are here today to put their story out to the public to maybe try to change things. We have needed to represent all of these people because of the lack of regulation, the lack of oversight. That needs to stop. People need to pay attention, wake up, and make change.
Thank you. Let's take our next question. It's from Mark Gillespie at the Associated Press.
Yeah, hi. Couple of things. What was Mr. Barrett's reaction when you gave him this news?
I was actually home alone. My husband was out of town for business, and I had called. We exchanged numbers on Facebook. Once I confirmed it was him, we began to text. And once I started getting into some long texts, he decided to just call me. So he answered the phone, and that's when he admitted to me that he was at this clinic at the same day as my parents. And I blurted out on the phone, I said, I don't want to surprise you, but I think you might be my biological father. And his exact words were, I'm not scared. This is great news. I've gone my entire life thinking I have no children, and this is great news. I have a daughter. He's been absolutely supportive. He's helped me with any questions I've had. He's already given me some of the medical history on his side of the family to make me feel more comfortable about my new sense of life. He's been more than helpful.
Great. There's a lot of questions. Let's go to our next question. It's from Nick Mordawanek at Newsweek.
Hello. This is a question more for the attorneys. I haven't seen the lawsuit, obviously, but what kind of, compensation, damages, et cetera, are you seeking from this litigation?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Nick. Let's be clear. There's no amount of money that will make this right. We can't go back in time and change things. What happened, happened, and we can't go back and change that, unfortunately. There are interesting questions over what the damages should look like in this case, but no amount of money will sufficiently compensate Jessica, Janine, Mike for what has been done. It's all what we'd really like, we need accountability, and we need for changes to happen within the industry. We should not have any more instances of, Jessica or other Jessicas out there finding out, being surprised who their biological father is.
Thank you. Let's go to our next question. It's from Anna Miller at Insider.
Hi, I was hoping you could address what might have happened with Mike's sperm. Do we know if there is a biological child out there?
We'd love to know that answer, but we haven't heard anything. We haven't been given any information, and we don't know that we were the only couples there that day. There may be 2, 3, 4 couples. Maybe we're all intertwined. We don't know. And we would love to know,
But for his purposes, it didn't take. They didn't have a child as a result of that day. Whether it was my sperm in her or not, apparently is still unknown, but they didn't have a child as a result of that particular day.
You know, but let's also zoom out from this particular situation and think about all of the people around the country who go to fertility clinics. You shouldn't need to question where your sperm is. You shouldn't need to question if you have other children out there you don't know about. These Wild West days of the fertility industry need to come to an end.
absolutely.
Let me just jump in on that as well. You know, in reaching out to Summa and the doctor, we would have certainly welcomed the opportunity to engage with them to provide some kind of exchange of information. You key in on a particularly salient issue, which is what happened to Mike's sample, and we've had no willingness on the part of the hospital or the doctor to try and help us get to the bottom of that. So that's part of what we hope to continue to dig into as the case proceeds.
Let's go to our next question. It's from Amy Klein, who's a book author and columnist.
Hi, Jessica. I'm sorry about what's happening to you. I wanted to know if you have any insight. I know you said that your Italian heritage was very important to you. Do you have any insight into your new heritage or other genetic relatives besides your dad? Do you know like where he's from and if they're not Italian, what they are?
Yeah, I knew I was a little bit English and Irish just because of my mom's side. But this threw in a little bit of Welsh, Scottish, and I believe French as my new genetic material that I did. That was all new information to me. Like I said, the Irish, it was a lot more than it should have been, given who I thought my parents were, but the Welsh and the French were definitely new.
All right, let's go to a follow-up question from Stephanie Warsmith at the Akron Beacon Journal.
I wanted to ask, this is for Adam or Ashley. There was a lawsuit filed by your firm in 2019 that involved a similar situation with and I apologize if I say the name incorrectly, the Cardelloni family in Central Ohio. I'm wondering what the status is of that lawsuit, if it's still pending, or if that has been settled in some way.
Yeah, Stephanie, thank you for the question. That case has resolved.
All right, another follow-up question, this coming from Lisa Ryan at IdeaStream.
Hi, yeah, I was just wondering if you plan to have any sort of relationship with any of your new biological relatives, whether it be the man who is your biological father or any of his other, relation or relatives. And then I was also wondering, you mentioned that they didn't have a child as a result of that day. Did they ever have a child? Did they have any children?
Jessica?
Oh, I didn't know for which part we're doing. Yeah, this is still pretty new as far as when we discovered who this gentleman was that is my biological father. We've been kind of on a texting basis as far as, Happy New Year, happy birthday, things like that. It's not going to be an overnight process as far as having a relationship with someone that you're just now finding out is your biological father. But knowing the medical history on that side of the family now is absolutely crucial that I find out, what were my grandparents, his parents, did they have any health issues that I need to be aware of for myself? Do I have cousins out there, aunts, uncles that I could be genetically related to? I would love to meet. It's still also fresh and new, though for all of us, we're all still trying to figure that out.
Thank
And
you.
as laid out in the complaint, it's Mr. and Mrs. Barrett were undergoing an IVF procedure, which is a little different procedure than the Harveys were undergoing, and they were unsuccessful in that attempt, and then they divorced very shortly thereafter.
Thank you. Let's take our next follow-up. It's Clay Lepard, WEWS News, Cleveland.
This question's for Adam. Adam, do you have any reason to believe that there are other instances of this with the specific doctor or specific health system at this point?
Clay, thanks for your question. I appreciate it. So sadly, we hear about cases like this all the time. We are presently not representing any other couples or children that, from Summa. But we certainly, want to know if this has happened before. We are happy to speak to anybody else who has these issues, whether it's from Summa or elsewhere. But what we do know is that these types of issues, these types of mistakes, these types of life-altering tragedies have happened before. They've happened around the country, and they really need to stop.
All right, thank you. Just as a quick reminder before we adjourn, if any reporters on the line wish to ask a question, you can use the raise your hand function, and we'll unmute you when it's your turn to ask a question. Okay, and that was quick. We do have another question. It's from 19 News. Okay. Please unmute yourself.
Good afternoon, and I want to say to the family, thank you for sharing this very personal experience. This can't be easy. Perhaps to the attorneys or the families, do we know, is this doctor still in practice? Is he still with Summa? Any background on him that the attorneys have been able to gather?
Yes, thanks for the question. As far as we can tell, Dr. Spirtos runs a clinic still in Akron. And if you go on Summa's website and search for Find a Doctor, you can still have an option to book an appointment with Dr. Spirtos. So it appears he remains affiliated with Summa Health System.
All right, thank you. We want to make sure that you know where to get more information following today's news conference. To connect with the speakers you've heard from today or to get more information, contact Max Carlin at 216-225-6765. And a reminder that a recording of this news event and all the related materials will be available online at lostembryos.com. We want to thank everyone for joining this news event held by the law firm Peiffer, Wolf, Carr, Kane, Conway, and Wise. And that concludes today's news event. Thank you.